When my dad's best friend said I was such a bad mother that I should give my baby up for adoption, I revealed a secret about him that shocked everyone. My dad's friend said I was a terrible mother, and I couldn't take it anymore, so I publicly humiliated him. Now my dad is demanding that I apologize. But there's more to the story. I was 18 and in college when I first met my dad's friend, Harold. Right away, he treated me with disrespect. When he found out I was studying medicine, the first thing he said was, "Oh, so you think you can save the world? How cute. Little 18-year-old thinks she can change the world." My dad laughed, and when I glared at him, he just said Harold's comment was funny. From then on, every time I saw Harold, he would insult me. He made fun of my clothes, called the books I read childish, and even made a rude comment about my past in volleyball, saying I probably only liked it because I could wear tight outfits around boys. My dad never stood up for me. The last straw came when Harold interrupted me at a barbecue, telling me I didn't know how to cook and physically pushing me out of the way. After that, I tried to avoid him for 6 years. Yesterday was my dad's girlfriend's birthday, and I went with my fiancé and our 6-month-old son. Harold was there, and even though I hadn't seen him in years, he still treated me like a clueless child. My baby spent most of the afternoon sleeping, but when he woke up hungry, I went to breastfeed him. When I came back, Harold started making jokes, saying I was probably a terrible mother. He then started questioning my parenting and calling me a bad mom in front of everyone. I finally lost it when he asked if I had considered giving my baby up for adoption. I shouted at him, asking how he could judge me when his ex-wife had full custody of his own child. I then exposed a secret, that he tried to sleep with his brother's girlfriend. To top it off, I told him to lose some weight and that no woman would want to touch him with that gut. I left with my fiancé and son after that. On the drive home, my dad kept texting me, demanding I come back and apologize to Harold. I refused and asked my dad if he knew what Harold had said to me. My dad yelled, saying Harold had just offered to make me a sandwich, which made me laugh. My dad had been in the bathroom the whole time, so he didn't hear anything that actually happened. He only saw me yelling and leaving the room. When my dad asked why I was laughing so much, I first told him it was nothing, but when he asked again, I said Harold was lying and that I wasn't going to explain. I told my dad he should call Harold himself to find out. I then called him out for always taking Harold's side whenever he upset me. I told my dad it wouldn't surprise me if he just blindly believed Harold again and ignored what I was saying now. My dad hung up, and I didn't hear from him the rest of the night. My fiancé told me he was really proud of me, saying my comments were not only bold but also hilarious. I was glad he felt that way. Update 1. First, I want to address a common assumption. Some people think Harold has feelings for me. I don't think so. His comments were always annoying and condescending, but they never seemed suggestive. Still, your support made me feel better, and I was touched by how many people were on my side. I did feel a little bad about what I said, but I don't regret standing up for myself. I think I felt bad because it meant I'd stopped keeping the peace after so many years. It took a while for the relief to set in. Honestly, I'd wanted to confront Harold ever since the barbecue incident. That's when my feelings about him changed from I don't like him to I can't stand him. The day after my first post, my dad actually called Harold, which surprised me. When my dad asked Harold what really happened, Harold hesitated before admitting the truth. He took a minute to respond and then said, "Oh, I know." Harold tried to explain to my dad that he was just concerned about me becoming a mom so young and that he didn't mean any harm. I knew what I was doing, and while Harold apologized to my dad, I didn't believe his excuses. The next day, my dad told me about the call and said I should forgive Harold for what he called an honest misunderstanding. He also thought I should apologize because I overreacted by telling Harold I hated him over something small. A lot of Harold's rude comments happened in front of my dad, but my dad was usually too distracted to notice them. He doesn't pay attention unless something directly involves him or makes him angry, and even then, he'll probably forget about it later. We also have different ideas of what's offensive, so my dad never saw Harold's comments as a big deal. I told my dad that I wasn't exaggerating when I said I hated Harold and that the adoption comment was just one example of many. I reminded him of all the condescending things Harold had said to me over the years, including at the party. My dad didn't remember any of them. I made it clear that I've hated Harold for years and that I had no reason to apologize. I also told my dad that I won't be attending any events Harold is invited to. I don't expect my dad to stop being friends with Harold, but I won't be around him anymore. I said I would ask in advance if Harold is coming, and if my dad lies, I'll leave. My dad called me dramatic, but I pointed out that I'd been avoiding Harold for 6 years, and no one even noticed, so clearly it wasn't a big problem. I told him I don't have to like his friends any more than he has to like mine. After some back and forth, my dad agreed to my terms. Yesterday, my dad mentioned that Harold was upset, but I just ignored it. I'm not cutting off my dad completely, though I've come close in the past few years. Moving out has made things easier, and since we only see each other a few times a month, it's manageable. My dad doesn't complain as much about me not calling or texting anymore. I don't see the point in going no contact with him since he no longer has any control over my life. Instead, I'm focusing on raising my own child differently and learning from my dad's mistakes. My relationship with my dad is still rocky, and I don't trust him to babysit because he tends to fall asleep on the couch. I pushed him to start therapy when I got pregnant, and he finally started in June. His behavior has improved a lot, especially with me and my younger sister, who still splits time between our divorced parents. I've made it clear to him that he won't be allowed near my son if he stops going to therapy. This is the first time in my life that my dad has made real progress, and while it's hard to be hopeful, I'm trying. If I ever do cut ties with him, it won't be because of Harold. That's the whole story. I'm relieved I no longer have to pretend or hide things. My relationship with my dad is rocky, but I'm not going to dwell on it. My main focus is on my son, my fiancé, and my job, and that's not changing anytime soon. Update 2. Avoiding Harold has been going well. My dad has been respecting my boundaries. Whenever he invites my husband and me over for lunch or dinner, I ask who else will be there. If Harold is coming, my dad tells me, and he hasn't lied so far. He also doesn't push when I say I'm not coming. Since my last post, I've only seen Harold once, at my dad's birthday party a few months ago. Yes, I knew Harold would be there, but my dad promised Harold wouldn't talk to me. Also, some of my dad's friends' kids, who I used to babysit and love, would be there. I wanted to see them more than I wanted to avoid Harold. I spent most of the party with my son and the kids, and Harold didn't speak to me at all, so I guess my dad kept his word. My husband and I noticed Harold staring at us a few times, but I chose to ignore it. At one point, I saw my husband staring back, and the sweet guy I married actually managed to look intimidating. I love him for that. You know who did talk to me? Harold's girlfriend. Yes, he has one now. She came over twice. First, she came to look at my son and then made a comment about how he needed a haircut. Great start, right? Later, she came up to me again and said, "You're shy, aren't you?" I said no, and she laughed, saying, "Yeah, you're shy," as if she was talking to a child. I held back my reaction, but I wanted to tell her I wasn't shy. I just preferred spending time with the kids because they were better company than her and Harold. Based on these interactions, Harold's girlfriend is just as unbearable as he is, so they're perfect for each other. I don't have much else to add. My dad broke up with the woman he was dating last year and now has a new girlfriend. She's not annoying or crazy, and I actually like her, though I don't think they'll last a year. My relationship with my dad still isn't perfect, but it's better. He's been apologizing to me more often, which is surprising. Maybe it's the therapy, or maybe motherhood has made me more intimidating, but I'll take it. To be fair, he's a really good grandfather, and I appreciate that. I'm also glad my dad is respecting my boundary with Harold because I definitely don't want him in my life anymore. Update 3. A few months passed, and everything had been going well. My dad was sticking to the boundaries I set about Harold, and I wasn't dreading family events anymore. I'd attend dinners with my fiancé and son, and we'd have a good time without any issues. I really thought I was done with Harold. Then came my dad's birthday. It was supposed to be a simple dinner, and I made sure to ask if Harold was going to be there. My dad reassured me that Harold wasn't invited, and I felt relieved since I didn't want to deal with him. Everything was fine at first. My dad was happy, his girlfriend was being sweet, and it was nice catching up with family friends. But a few hours in, guess who walked through the door? Harold, and he was drunk. I gave my dad a look, and he seemed just as surprised as I was. He hadn't invited Harold. Turns out Harold heard about the party from someone else and showed up unannounced. He was loud, obnoxious, and made everyone uncomfortable. I stayed away from him, focusing on my son and talking to friends. I figured we'd leave early if Harold got too annoying, but as the night went on, Harold got worse. He made snide comments to people, mostly to my dad, but I could feel his eyes on me the entire time. At one point, I overheard Harold drunkenly tell my dad, You should have brought someone else's kid instead of hers. At least then you'd have a chance at decent grandkids. I froze. I wanted to scream at him, but I stayed calm, focusing on my son and fiancé. I thought if I ignored him, he'd stop. Then things got dangerous. My dad was at the grill, and Harold, in his drunken state, decided to take over. He shoved my dad out of the way and ended up knocking the entire tray of food onto the ground. Everyone was staring. I was just waiting for my dad to do something, but he tried to laugh it off like Harold was just being himself. That was the final straw. I couldn't take it anymore. I stormed over and yelled at Harold, telling him he needed to leave. He smirked at me like it was all a joke and said, "Oh, little miss knows best, huh? You think you're all grown up now with your perfect little family." I'd had enough. I snapped and told Harold I was done with him. I said, "You've been an arrogant, disgusting jerk for years, and if you think I'm going to let you treat me or my family like this anymore, you're delusional. Get the hell out of here." Harold just stared at me, not even trying to defend himself this time. My dad finally stepped in, and for once, he was on my side. He told Harold, "You need to leave now." Harold was shocked and tried to laugh it off, but my dad didn't budge. He repeated, "Leave, Harold, you've crossed too many lines, and you're not welcome here anymore." Harold stumbled out, and after that, my dad apologized to me. This time, I could tell he was serious. He admitted he'd been wrong to let Harold get away with so much for so long. For the first time, he chose me over Harold. It wasn't just words either. My dad hasn't spoken to Harold since.